thank you again for being here. Um, this project for me is a culmination of the last 4 years, and I was talking to Ola before I let everyone in, and this really feels like that this is my most authentic voice ever. So this is me being most me I think I've ever been in my entire life, actually. And it's really beautiful to kind of have you on at the beginning of this part of my journey, because this is something I want to do more of. So I really appreciate the artists that have submitted, and everyone else who's here and who's been watching it. So thank you ever so much, and of course my beautiful panel. Now Nick couldn't be here. Parvinder is in the country and her connection's crap, so who knows if she will pop in. But the rest of my lovely panelists are here: Ola, Nanette, and Paul. Just letting someone else in. I will get them to introduce themselves in a minute. So just a few guidelines for this hour is you can't get anything wrong. I'd love you to put in the chat your responses to the images that we're talking about, and any response you might have to the discussion in its entirety. I mean, you can't get this wrong. You can't get your feelings wrong. So please let us know what's coming up from you if you feel you want to share. But it would be lovely to have have everyone as part of this process. Just a reminder again, I'm recording this session, so the felt process is all about your emotional response, putting aside your likes and dislikes to what we're looking at and what we're hearing and seeing, and noticing what's going on in your body, being aware of any reactions you might have, and just noticing them and welcoming it, and seeing what might be different to if you're all in your head and being cognitive about it. So the idea is to come out of your head and be in your body, and just it's a bearing witness to ourselves, really. It's noticing what is being reflected in everything, really, the discussion, the images, each other, and just being aware of that, and being non-judgmental on yourself, and allowing yourself to be with whatever is. So the outline of today is I'm just going to get the panel to introduce themselves. Then we are going to talk briefly about how the selection process was for them, choosing the images from all the submissions. And then we're going to chat about a selection of images from the exhibition. So, oh yes, and Paul, bless him, is going to do a quick breathing exercise for us, just to allow us to deepen our connection in this time together, and to really dig a bit deeper into what's going on for us just today. And so I'm going to ask the panel to introduce themselves, and also to ask the panel how they're feeling. So I would love you to all put in the chat how you're feeling today as well. And then we can all kind of be part of this, a big feeling mush together. So Ola, who are you, what do you do, and how are you feeling?
Now I was like, am I typing? Am I speaking? I was like, hello. So how am I feeling? I am feeling grounded and grateful to be here. And who am I? You want me to introduce myself, Catherine?
Please.
Yeah. So I'm Ola. I describe myself as a social scientist, storyteller, person that gets people curious around conversation. All about sparking curiosity to discover new thoughts and new actions, especially around the world of inclusion, culture change, and building new habits in that. And I'm just the person that just loves to find new ways to see the world. So really, really grateful to be here.
Thank you, Ola. Nanette.
Good morning. I'm feeling very grateful to be here too, and to be part of this process, especially with the work that I do. Often I'm rather critical of my own work. I'm a portrait photographer, and so to go through this process with Catherine has been really life-changing in a lot of ways. as to what I chose. I'm also feeling a little emotional because when I went through the process with Catherine before, I got very emotional. And it's early in the morning here, and I probably my filters are all stripped out. I haven't gone out into the world yet. So I'm a portrait photographer. I live in Maine, southern Maine half of the time, and northern Maine on the Canadian border the other half of the time. And I'm in the midst of a year-long project photographing 50 women over the age of 50. It's called the Empowered Portrait Project. And I've also just started what I do every summer, and that is Women in Water sessions. So really, I just primarily focus on photographing women and connecting with them and learning as much as I can from each woman along the way.
Amazing. Thank you, Annette. And finally, lovely Paul.
I love how I'm referred to as lovely Paul. I think I might keep that, maybe change it on my birth certificate. Hi, it's Paul here. I'm in London. What am I? So I think I'm a bit of a person in progress at the moment. I've recently left employment and I'm now living the freelance life and feeling a bit giddy about it. Like I noticed this morning, I was really excited about coming here. I've been so happy to be part of this process. And there was a little voice in me that went, but do you deserve it? And so I'm really curious about what it's like to be in this process of unfolding and becoming and seeing what emerges. So I describe myself as a creative change consultant. I work in the space of change. I use consulting practice in my work, and I put creative at the beginning of that because I always give myself a hard time that I'm not creative enough. And so I thought, actually lean into it, call yourself creative, and something will happen. So as part of that, I work as a coach, I work as a mentor, a facilitator. I'm also a trained somatic coach, a body-oriented coach, and I also train people in how to be somatic coaches. So Catherine very kindly invited me both to be part of the process and also for today to offer a very brief taster of somatic practice, just to get ourselves into the space. And there's a couple of ways that we can do this. One is called orienting, and it's very simple. The way to orient is to see if you can let your eyes lead you just wherever they want to go around the space. So maybe just for 30 seconds or so, just see if you can allow your eyes to look around and orient to your environment. See if you can let your eyes go where they want to go. Just notice how the world is making contact with you today. What do you see when you just see? It might be that your eyes land on something that looks pleasurable. Maybe you could let them be there for a while. As soon as it's not pleasurable, just let them move. See what else they want to look at today. And then if you'd like to make contact with your own self, my invitation is to join me in a brief couple of minutes exercise where we will just see what's going on inside as well as outside. And so what that might mean, if you're okay with it, is to close your eyes this time. If not, you can keep them open, but you might want to close your eyes. And just see if you can locate your feet. Not the idea of your feet, but see if you can locate your actual feet. Maybe notice the support that's available to you from whatever your feet are making contact with. And you might bring some attention to the back of your legs, to your calves. Maybe bring a bit of awareness to the back of your thighs, particularly seeing if you can notice what contact is being made there. It might be from a chair, from the floor. Just really allowing yourself to sense that contact. You might bring some awareness to the base of your spine, your lower back. And maybe noticing your shoulders, the top of your back. You might see if you can sense your whole spine. Just noticing the support that's available to you from it and how it's holding you right now. You might see if you can sense your whole head, top of your head, your forehead. See if you can notice the tip of your nose. Maybe sensing your lips, your mouth. And then you might take your attention inside your mouth and let it drop down into your throat. And see if you can invite your attention to drop even further down into your chest, around your heart space. Maybe even further down into your belly, your abdomen area. And with your attention resting in the center of you, your throat, your chest, your belly, your abdomen area, see if you can invite a fresh sense of awareness. And see what happens if you pose yourself the question, how can I feel joy in this moment? Just allow whatever's there to be fully present. If there's something that you notice that feels good or nourishing, see if you can invite it to expand, take up as much space as it wants to. And when it feels right for you, you might want to bring a bit of movement to your fingers, your toes, maybe see what you can sense around you in the space. It might be like opening and closing your eyes. Maybe when you feel ready, you might bring the screen into your vision. And when it feels good, just looking at all these fab faces in the room with us today. Thank you. Catherine.
That's lovely. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Ola and Lynette as well. And thank you for everything that you do and being here today. That was a beautiful somatic experience, Paul. Thank you. So the first part of this is going to be just finding out what the selection process was like for the panelists. So I'll just take you through what I did really quickly. So all the images were up on an online gallery, and I had a half an hour to an hour session with each panelist on Zoom, and we did a slideshow of all the images. I asked them not to look at too many of them beforehand, so they weren't like more familiar or with some than others. So it was a whole gallery viewing where we just looked at the gallery in silence on a slideshow. And then it was a very quick selection of each image I would bring up, and it would be a yes or no. So the speed of that was to do with it being an instinctive and felt decision. It wasn't then up in your brain, do I like it, don't I like it, I don't know. Oh, if there was any hesitation, my instinct then was that it was a no, because if you're having to think about it, it's not a definite yes. So all the yeses went into a folder, and then we looked at all the yeses, and then we looked to see if there were any in that group that the panelists wanted to remove, that they felt less strongly about. And then I asked the panelists basically which couldn't they do without, which would they save from a burning building, and what was so interesting about the process for me was how incredibly definite the decisions were, especially about the ones that selected as final choices. there was no umming and ahhing. There was no, well, you know, it could be this and blah, blah, blah. There was none of that. It was all, yes, this is it. And there was nothing cognitive to make out of it. There was no explanations. I didn't ask them to rationalize or talk about what they were feeling or how they were responding. It was just which were the strongest responses they had. And that's basically how the felt process happened. So if we can spend the next 10 minutes finding out from the panel what that was like for them, and how it might have been different to how they might have chosen or felt about an image previously. So over to you, panel.
I'm happy to start. Can you hear me, Catherine?
Yes, I don't think it's very loud, so I'm just
checking the my connection. The process for me was it surprised me actually how distinct it was. When we went through the first time, it was, I mean, immediately it was either a yes or a no. And then I think we got down to 7 for me. And then when you asked me what I could take out, again, it was a very, very distinct process of the yeses and the nos. And I was really surprised by that, because again, going back to what I'm used to seeing, which is my own images on a daily basis, I'm so wishy-washy about, you know, do I like this edit or do I like that edit, or do I like this image better or that image better? And I think after this process, I'm going to be so much more in tune with which image do I feel more strongly about, rather than the critical eye of, you know, which image is better photographically. And then the other piece for me, which I mentioned in my intro, was that when I got down to my 1, it was, well, my 5 actually were very emotional. How I felt about the 5 as a group. And then my 1 was very emotional. And it amazed me that in a gallery of 73 images, 67 images, that I could feel so strongly about 5, and then like extremely strongly about 1. I mean, I might look at a National Geographic magazine and not feel strongly about anything, you know. So I mean, kudos to the artists who sent in their imagery. And I love the variety. So that's kind of how the process was for me.
Ninette, would you mind just saying a little bit more about your how you felt about your 5 and what they meant to you?
Mm-hmm. Well, when we narrowed down and you just put the 5 up for me, my first instinct was these images collectively represent my whole life. I felt like I could say, this is my childhood in my mind. This is adolescence. This is my adult life. And then one image was actually in my mind very distinctly something that would have been a picture taken that would be taken after I died.
Very powerful. And we're going to talk about that image. How did you find it, Ola?
Just sitting with what Lynette said, just how we went through the same experience that we had, very different experiences. So I think mine started before the actual selection process with you, Catherine. I was actually annoyed that I would have to select. It's like a bit of a FOMO of wanting them all and that, but no, but they're all, and it was like, well, how am I going to choose? But when we started, what I was so grateful for was the speed of the first part and how clean you were in there. It's a yes or no. So there wasn't any, I was able to get beneath that layer of trying to hold it all, which again is a representation of a bit about, as I said in my intro, about inclusion. I like to see all perspective and hold everything. So it's like, taking it down to something. So you took me through to another layer, which was great. And then when we got through that, we were then in that space of, I think I ended up with, we still had a few, didn't I, Catherine? It wasn't down to 5, so I still had a few, so I had to let them go them all. But what I started to notice was in some of those pictures, what I was doing was living into another part of what I do, which is a storyteller. So I was noticing which pictures were creating stories for me around, it could be this. And then Catherine was like, no, leave the stories and go to the felt. And I was like, no, there's this. And so it was almost like she kept trying to whistle me down. And I was like, no, stay expanded, stay expanded. But again, I was grateful for that, because what it took me to was actually how I see the world is through stories first. It's like, what's the associations, what's the meanings, what's it pointing at, what's the sign, what's it remind me of? There's just so many stories, and building a narrative, like I'm telling this as a narrative, as a story. See, you can see it's all the way through. and then actually going beneath that, what I realized were there was some pictures, because of the story I had started with, I refused to go further with. It's almost like the story that it prompted for me stopped me in my tracks. I would no longer look at that picture. And we explored that for a bit. And why I want to mention that was, as we explored it, I realized that if I could let go of the story, I could see the picture again. And for me, it's because Catherine talked back to the felt sense. What do you feel? Not what do you think or stories, what do you feel? And by doing that, I was able to re-look at some of the pictures that I had dismissed because of the story wasn't a good story I put with them. So it just made me look again and look again. And then what I got to see, which is a new gift for me, which I'm exploring in other areas of my world, is there were certain pictures that took me beyond words, and I couldn't find the words to describe them as a feeling. So it's almost like it was layers from FOMO, wanting it all, to then the story, and then the digging, and then, here are some pictures. So my selection was based on the pictures where they just had there was a felt sense, a bodily sense. There were no stories or words or descriptions, but there was just something. And it was almost like beyond words, or no words for, but there was feeling. Yeah, but once I started trying to explain the feelings, it were back in of the story. So I just left it as just something. So the process for me was almost like layering, digging down. It was quite liberating, and it's just given me another lens to really be curious through. Yeah, so I'm really grateful for it.
Thank you, Ola. Cool.
Excuse me. I mean, all of that, and I feel like Nanette and Ola have described it. You've described what I was feeling without knowing what I was feeling. I mean, I think for me, this was one of the most liberating and freeing experiences I've ever had in terms of anything to do with art. Because I think I often feel like a bit of an imposter if I walk into Tate Modern. I don't really know what I'm supposed to think. And it reminded me of Alan Bennett when he was a trustee of the National Gallery. He said there should be a sign at the door that says, you don't have to like it all. Because often I walk around a gallery and I think, do I like this? Do I like this? Is it good? And this process took me away from that, and it took me into, what does this make me feel? And I don't think it wasn't even an emotion. Some of them had definitely an emotional quality and an emotional reaction, but even beneath that, there was a visceral reaction. There was something, Shakira said, our hips don't lie. Well, for me, my body told the truth. When I looked at every photo, there was something. Even if it was the absence of something, that was something. And so it helped me to feel free from, I don't know enough about art. I don't know what I'm talking about, because it wasn't about talking, it was about sensing and about feeling. And funnily enough, I went to the National Gallery yesterday because I had a bit of free time in the afternoon, and I looked at the works, completely differently because of this process. And so I feel like through the submissions that you made and giving me the opportunity to do it, you've changed how I'm going to look at art. I was walking around the gallery and it's not really my kind of thing. You know, they were all a bit kind of fusty, like 1400s. And I was walking around and I was thinking, oh, I don't know if I like it. And then I kind of went, hold on, felt process. And I just started to tune in. And if I saw something and I felt something, I would walk up to it and I would get really close to it. So I feel like you've changed how I look at art. So thank you for that, because that, you know, I haven't even had to try. Yeah, it was an amazing process, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be able to see them and to feel them.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Paul. I love that you said that you didn't have to try, and I think so much of this is about just letting go of everything we feel we have to do or think, and we don't. You know, art is there to be felt. It's not there to be made sense of. You know, cognitively, and you know, we don't need to take on those shoulds. We can just be with the art, and you know, that's why we create. That's why because we're just creating something from within, and it's for other people to be with it or not, and to have something reflected in or not. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter. And you know, that's it's a whole process of creating and experiencing the creativity. Sorry, Nanette.
And it's okay. Can I add one thing that just came up because it was pretty strong for me. There were actually two images that when we hit on them, I felt like I should like them. But when I really, I mean, that was my first instinct, was like, I should like this one. And then when I really went to the felt process, I was like, but I'm not feeling anything about it. So it's a no. But it was really a hard process to put that aside and say, because generally those would be images that I might be attracted to or might gain some inspiration from. They were portraits, and so it was a very interesting process to hit them and say, I feel like I should like this, but in the felt process, they don't make me feel anything. And that kind of was the flip side for me of what did attract me, what I did feel strongly about.
And it can be the hardest thing to do, you know, losing our shoulds and letting go. You know, we're so conditioned in our conditioning that that's very hard to just go, well, I just want to shake it off, because we take on so much, because society demands so much of us. And actually, no, let's just flip it around, turn it inside out. Let's do the opposite of what everyone is saying, and let's just experience what it means to feel again. You know, it's so important. So amazing. Thank you, panel. So I have a slight bit of anxiety over the next bit because I don't know where to start, although I am pulled towards Onno's, so I think we might start there. So I'm going to share my screen. That's not the right screen. There we go. Right. So, oops. So, I'm going to invite everybody. Please put in the chat how the image makes you feel. If you'd like to share, you don't have to if you don't want to. Onno is here. Thank you so much for joining us, Onno. And I hope I pronounced your name correctly. So, panel, who would like to start? And what I do want to say is that there's no prerequisite for people to respond. If they're not feeling anything, then they don't need to respond. All right. I know Nanette will be responding to this, so we'll start with Nanette. But I just don't want there to be any judgment for if there's no response from people. That's just, it perhaps just doesn't bring up much for other people, and that includes all of us, not just the panel. So Nanette, do you want to just respond and say what this image does for you?
Sure, I'm already feeling really emotional about it. So this was the image for me that it was an immediate visceral response that it just really hit me over the head, that this is the image that I foresaw or foresee would be taken after I died of my partner. We're very close. He doesn't have a lot of other people in his world. And when I saw this image, this naked, stripped down, head in his hands, this image to me just completely represented how, and I had never even, first of all, I never think about death, or very rarely think about death. I'm a very live in the moment, live for the day kind of person. And so even the fact that something came to me that might take place after I died was really shocking for me. But it immediately just grabbed me, that this would be an image of my partner that would be taken of him after I died.
Thank you, Nanette. And Ola and Paul, do you have a response you'd like to share?
Yeah, I remember this one. This one upset me. Yeah, I remember this one upsetting me. This is one of the ones I had to come back to, I think I remember. And I don't know why. I'm just quite surprised that the feeling is still there. But it's right in my gut. I'm trying to stay out of the story I can make around it, but there's just something about upset, and it's a gut feeling. It's right in my stomach. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I don't remember seeing this, which I find really interesting, because as I sit here, my feet feel freezing. Like all of a sudden, I want to put socks on. And there's something about this image that there's just something really vulnerable about it. And I also wonder if there was something in my brain that didn't want to do the obvious gay thing and go for the naked man, but that also is quite revealing, that maybe there's something, this sense of cold feet, naked man, maybe there's something there about, my brain kind of skipping over it. But yeah, looking at this, I think, how did I not see this? Where was I?
I love what, Paul, sorry, just a comment came in while you were speaking about, someone just helped me make sense of something about the gut feeling. Is it because I can't see the face? Is there something around, there's something missing for me? So thank you. Thank you, whoever, Sissy, I think just wrote that in. Thank you, just giving me something there. There is something around, is it because there's no face? And it's just, yeah.
Yeah, the despair that I believe we all experience or have experienced or will experience. But I believe that the majority of us do it in the bathroom alone with the door closed, and we don't show the rest of the world. But we've all been here. And the fact that it's being shown, and I think vulnerability, I guess, is one of the pieces for me too, that this is generally our state as a human when we don't want to show anyone this piece of us. And that this artist was willing to show it. And for me, the fact that it's a man showing it is even more striking, because I think with our society, you know, even though it's getting better, men still are so expected to not present their difficult emotions.
Thank you. I just would like to read some of the things from the chat. Despair, vulnerability, hopelessness, vulnerable yet powerful, gut feeling may be emphasized by the angle and you can't see his face. My feet went cold. Brings out the mum in me. This person appears to be older, but his hair is youthful. My son has suffered with mental health issues, and this photo is a bit like a sharp pain in my side. Bless your heart. Thank you for sharing. I feel compassion. Beautiful. Despair and vulnerability. Upset, stress, confusion that my grandma experienced when she suffered with dementia. Incredible. So thank you for sharing, everyone. That's really powerful, powerful responses. Ono, I would really love it if you would be happy to unmute yourself and just to let us know how it feels to listen to the feedback, and you know, how are you responding to what you're hearing?
I'm feeling very emotional, actually, hearing this. I've always been attracted to the to raw honesty and authenticity, and what you have said here is a portrayal in its purest form, much more than I've ever hoped that I would be able to witness. I feel like many of you that there's a lot of backstories when I walk into a gallery or when I look at an image or that sort of take me away. I feel the same about the judging process. That sort of take me away from myself and take away from the images. And this, your responses, they're clearly, you know, it's also very interesting that a lot of the feelings that you express here, vulnerability, certainly were going through my mind. The backstory to this is totally different than some of the backstories that, or some of the stories that it elicited in you. And that's what I find interesting. I find it very, very interesting that you, and this is, for me, this is very pure in the sense that it's doing what it's supposed to do, which is elicit a truly felt, authentic kind of a response. And I've never heard that before. Even this image has been shown elsewhere. People say it's, well, it's powerful, it's whatever, but I've never heard it described the way you are describing it right now. So I'm very, very grateful for that. Thank you.
Bless you. Bless your heart. Thank you very much for sharing, Ono, and being courageous to come on with your vulnerability. Thank you sincerely. So I'd like to move on to another image, if that's okay with everybody. This one by Annabelle. Extraordinary shot. Hannah, do you have any responses for this?
Well, I can still see Honor's one. Is that just me? Has it moved?
Oh, can anyone else see?
I can see the new one.
I can see the new one also.
Or a lag, maybe, Paul?
Obviously, my eyes don't want to leave Honor's image.
No.
Okay, I think everyone can see it. Paul, you know which one this is though, don't you? So let's, I mean, this was meant to be. Please maybe just do it from your memory.
No, it's back. Do you know, even thinking about this image, I noticed I was feeling a little bit sick in the best way, because I could not stop thinking about this image after you showed it to me. And I, a bit like Ola said, I absolutely knew this was without question the one that I wanted to show to everyone else. And I'm so surprised. I'm so surprised, because I would normally go for the big, showy, colorful, flashing lights. When I saw this, I felt emptiness, like I felt a hollowness in me. And then it made me laugh, and I felt like I just wanted to laugh uncontrollably at the screen. And I've never had that kind of reaction to an image like this before. And so I have no idea about the artist. I have no idea what the story is behind it. But immediately, what it did was it filled in a lot of gaps for me with my own story. Because immediately when I saw this, I felt afraid. I felt like, oh, I could never be in that space. There's no people. There's nothing. There's no technology. You know, all of the things that make me feel who I am. And so it made me feel quite empty, quite sick. And then I started laughing, because I thought, well, wouldn't that be quite fun? And it made me want to feel more adventurous. And I love the simplicity of it and the purity of it, and the fact that it brought up so many things, when normally it's the kind of thing I would walk past in a gallery, because I would think, oh, it needs to be bigger or showier. And yet this did everything. So yeah, I can't stop thinking about it still. And even when you said it was coming up, I thought, oh, I felt it. I felt that thing in me again. I felt that emptiness and the fear and the excitement and the hilarity. So yeah, I love this. So thank you, Annabelle.
Thank you. I think your response is quite extraordinary. It's so complex, your response, and I love that there are so many things that are just like they shouldn't go together, but they do, and you know, that is life. We are that complex, and it is to be noticed and not judged. Thank you. Ola and Annette, if you would like to respond, please do. If not, we'll move on to another image.
I don't have a strong feeling about this particular one, but now that we're sitting looking at it, I think it was one of my quick no's. And so now that I'm actually back looking at it, my first sense is that the grayness makes it difficult for me to look at it. It makes me feel closed in, or I guess sad. I tend to really enjoy a sunny day, and so therefore a cloudy feels overcast, maybe rainy. It makes me feel sort of blue.
Yeah, for me, this just reminds me of layers upon layers. You know, there's the red there, there's the green, there's the yellow, there's the blue, and then there's something about this that draws me into the path and how the path is split. Just at the end there, it's like, so there's something about layers and choice. I think that's where that takes me.
Amazing. I'm just going to read what we have in the
Can I just come back with just an observation, Catherine, if that's okay? And thank you, Ola and Annette, because actually that's really helping me to make sense of it in a way, and really interesting that I had all these reactions and then I just wanted to park them. And hearing that, it's given me a sense of depth to what might be going on, because the word that came up in my head, it's a Scottish word, dreich, which just means like one of those days where it's just a bit drizzly, a bit grey, a bit rainy. And that's where I'm from. That's home for me. And yet I couldn't wait to get away from it. I have a really complex relationship to where I'm from. And I hadn't made that connection at all. But now I look at it and I go, yeah, that's Dreich. That's Scotland. And yet it's still home. There's still a draw. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That's lovely. Amazing. Thank you, Paul. So the chat, we are saying the responses are uncertainty, ambiguity. It makes me want to strip everything away to see what's truly in my heart. No distractions or need for external validation. Emptiness, aloneness, softness. Emptiness again, uncertainty and a bit fearful. Detachment and acceptance. I love how those two are together there. Amazing. Thank you. I think we have time for one more. I'd love to talk about all of them, but this one. So this image by Marco was a bit like Onno's in the sense of strong instant responses, a lot of intrigue. So yeah, who'd like to start with this one? Ola.
This is a picture that just takes me straight to my heart. Please don't ask me why. I don't know. But this is the one that took me beyond words. It just took me to a location during the selection, and the more I've sat with it since the selection, it's been sparking so much. It's reminding me of me. So an ability to flex, to be, to kind of blend in. There's something around my whole ethnicity and race, being able to blend, sometimes being a bit transparent, sometimes being a bit there. You know, there's so much in this, but it took me a while to hear it. It just took me to the location first. It was straight to my heart. And then there was, the more I look at it, then I see two pieces within there. I see a fish eat another, so many things in there. But the other thing it brought me this morning when I looked at it again was joy. So what that's about, please ask me again in maybe another week. There might be something else there. But there's just the felt process for me. This was me without story, without word. It was just location, and the story has come as I've sat with it.
Thank you.
So I'm not surprised that you chose this, hearing that, Ola, because as I saw it, the biggest sensation I felt was I could feel my heart beating in my chest. It was like everything else went away and I could just feel it. And that's the feeling I get when I'm with you, is you make me feel my heart. And so this doesn't surprise me at all that it resonated, because immediately I just felt it. I felt it right here. And then I started to see it. And it reminded me of, like an anatomical heart, not like a cartoon heart, like a very authentic, real, physical heart. So yeah, I felt that definitely.
Making me cry now.
This image for me feels, it makes me feel concerned. And I'm not sure exactly why. I could put story around it, but my biggest sense is of concern. Like I feel, oh, something has happened. I guess that's my feeling. Something has happened. That's all I can come up with about how I'm feeling about it.
I love how different all your responses are. And then I love the fact that you've noticed how you're feeling and you're not making sense of it, and that's really beautiful. I found this one, it confused the hell out of me when I first looked at it, and every time I look at it I see something new. And just a real reminder here of it brings up what we are ready to see in ourselves. We see in an image what's being reflected about where we are, what we need, and what we might do about whatever that is. And on a different day we would feel something different, and that's the power of art. And obviously for me, photography, I can look at the same image every day and see something different, because something different will be reflected. I'd love to read the responses in the chat. So I think Ono has pretty much given it a title, Into the Mystery. I love that.
I love that.
Reminds me of me and how I am allowing myself to let go of what does not belong to me anymore. Gosh, it shows me my transformation. Gosh, I'm getting emotional reading this. And I too feel it right in my heart, and how it has been letting go of all its toxicity. Incredible. If fear had a physical, materialistic shape, wow. I don't know how to fully explain this, but it feels like my life up to adulthood. I can feel myself slowly melting away, just like the ice. Goodness me, I've got goosebumps head to foot, and uncomfortable. Thank you very much, everyone, for responding, panel, and also in the chat. It's hugely valuable, and I'll be feeding that back to all the artists that weren't able to be here today. So I'm wondering if anyone has any questions for me or the panel while we're here, just before we finish in the last couple of minutes. Please just unmute yourself and shout.
Catherine, may I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm wondering what the journey's been like for you.
Do you know, with a lot of my work, I would describe it as not doing it isn't an option. So I'm so compelled to do it, and I will put everything into it. This has just felt, this has been one of the easiest things I think I've ever done, in terms of having the idea, executing it. I mean, I did get help with the execution and how it kind of all is constructed, but in terms of the process and how we came to choose the images, and how everything I've done has been about the felt process. It's just been so easy and freeing. And because when you come from that intuitive place, you can't get it wrong. So it's just been like, oh yeah, I'll do that, and oh yeah, I'll do it like that. And so for me, it's just been this unbelievably glorious journey, which I just feel I'm starting. I've had amazing feedback on just the concept, and it's been absolutely extraordinary so far. And I'm excited about where this might go, and what the next exhibition will look like. But it's been an absolute joy connecting with artists I would have never otherwise have connected with, having incredible conversations that I would otherwise never have had. So it's been a privilege and an absolute joy. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
So let's finish if there are no questions. Thank you very much for everyone being here. I appreciate it hugely. My lovely panel. Please keep watching Felt Photographic for updates of anything that has come of that might come from this. I've got a few things going on that I fingers crossed they will happen. So yeah, in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day, and bless you all very much. And keep on feeling the art, and just notice what is being reflected for you, and what might change as a result. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for having me be part of this process. It has been life-changing. And I also wanted to thank Ono for his vulnerability and willingness to share. And that image had such a huge impact on me. And I just wanted to thank you personally for that image.
Yeah. I'd also like
I
to
want to thank all of you, especially you, Catherine, for motivating me to go deeper and deeper into this kind of process. It's really been extraordinary for me. It's been life-changing for me. And I thank you all for your true felt responses.
Thank you, Arno. Sarah.
Hi, Catherine. I just wanted to ask a quick question if there's time. It's amazing how valuable photography is in terms of teaching us how to feel rather than always going with the mind. I mean, that is really powerful. So my question is, how can we incorporate this into our lives as an ordinary person who's not a photographer? Just any little tips to, feel into the heart by using art. I'm a dancer, and sometimes it's difficult because there is that external validation, and I'm slowly moving away from that. And I really noticed that by taking my own photographs on my phone, it's been really beneficial.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that question. So it really is just about noticing and removing the shoulds and, not conforming, and bearing witness to yourself. And everywhere is an opportunity to have something reflected. So, you're walking down the street and there's some graffiti, just to notice what's going on in your body and having that awareness of how we are responding will give us an indication of what we might need and what's going on for us. And then using those insights into our work. I mean, I'm about to do another self-portrait using movement, which I'm trying not to avoid. So that's going to be really interesting about how that then manifests itself for me. And movement is such a beautiful way of creativity and self-expression. And you use your movement to respond to what you're seeing, that the art brings up for you. So I mean, it's literally everywhere. It's billboards, it's TV, it's a plant, it's a song you hear, it's the sun on your face or the wind on your skin. It's everywhere is an opportunity to go, wow, how am I responding to this? What is going on for me? And it really, I mean, it's mindfulness, isn't it? It's allowing yourself that time to slow down and notice more, and listen to your body, and not try to make sense of stuff. Because when we leave the working out to our body, it happens and it does it in its own good time. And we're given we're given the reason and the cognitive thing when we're ready to hear it and when our body has worked it out for us. So I'm a real believer in going, okay, something's going on, something's reflected, I'm feeling it, I'm aware, I'm feeling it in my body, and then I just let my body get on with it and wait and see what happens. And something always comes. Does that answer your question?
It really does. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you. All right, my lovelies. Well, bless your heart for all being here. Really appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully see you at the next one. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone.